How would you feel if people arrested for domestic violence had to register like sex offenders do? I think registering for anything after serving your sentence is bullspeep. If someone is so much a threat they can't be within a certain area or has a high chance of repeating, don't let them out of prison in the first place. Once you've done the time, having a scarlet letter that follows you around the rest of your life should be unconstitutional. That's a horrible idea. Not everyone who gets the sex offender charge are actually sex offenders. Sometimes it's a teenager who sent a picture to another teenager. This is technically distribution of child porn. Some teens make one bad choice and it can ruin their lives. Especially today with there being phones and speep. I'd feel that quite a few jurisdictions who have arrest the man as their procedural default would have to change that policy or get sued to hell and gone. Beep that. There are many different reasons that one might face a DV charge, including self-defense. And to marginalize and vilify all people that fall under this broad category as if they're awful because of it is awful to think about. Currently, I have a DV assault 2 charge that is pending against me from 2 years ago. From when I hit my extremely intoxicated, gun-wielding former boss with a baseball bat in a very speepty situation. I got out of the really abusive, toxic environment immediately following this, but am still facing the repercussions of my actions. For context, I'm the type of girl who is afraid of moths and telephone calls, cries when she gets mad, loves blanket forts and giant bears, and is overall not a violent or dangerous person. I'm quiet and respectful 95% of the time. I am not the same as the violent, narcissistic wife-beating assholes that you may have been thinking of when posting this question. I'm extremely lucky to have been given the change to have my case dismissed. And grateful every day that I won't have a violent crime on my record within the next year. But it's difficult to come to terms with even now because of how society as a whole views DV. Well, I would love if women lying about sexual assault get on the list of sex offenders, since they are in the same risk group as sex offenders and people convicted for domestic violence. But thing about domestic violence, there need to be better way to figure that out. Currently it's basically about who call police first, because you don't need much evidence. And if you Google, there is a lot of people who use that law against partners for financial gain. Someone once said that is sickening that if a woman go to a lawyer for divorce, first thing they suggest is to accuse partner of domestic violence. Because you don't need witnesses and any serious evidence. Just a bruise that anyone can give you and call to the police. Hell, you can punch yourself, lock yourself in the bedroom and call police. You have everything you need. It's sad that people now need dashcam on their car, in-house and on themselves all the f***ing time. I know several people wrongly convicted of domestic violence. I don't think this would be a good idea. No. I don't even think we should have a registry. There have been cases of people looking up random members of said registries simply to attack them. Ostensibly, the reason they're out of prison anyways is because we have already put them through our correction systems, which I think fail miserably at doing what their name implies, but that's a whole other topic, and thus should have all their rights in society restored. Maybe they're forbidden from buying housing near parks or going near public schools or withy, but them carrying around a badge makes them likelier to reoffend IMO, since they're gonna have a harder time socializing and finding work. How about we cut off a piece of their ear so they can show it always on their face and don't even bother with redemption like they did in old Scotland? At some point, automatic death penalty on the spot would be less of a hassle for all the parties involved. This makes a lot of sense. All for it? Let's make it happen. The only people who would object to using the wonder of the internet to maintain very accurate and public records of criminal behavior are people we should be worried about. Like it's a dumb idea that will create more problems than it solves. Two different offenses and should not mix the two. If going that route, then have a domestic violence list. Don't mix the two. As long as women are treated the same. All felons should be required to register their home address to provide the highest level of awareness to communities. Right? If sex offender registries provided a higher level of safety to neighborhoods, which evidence suggests they do not, then maintaining knowledge of all felons should increase awareness of other dangerous people. And thus would result in an overall reduction in felonious crimes. Unfortunately, communities don't have an appetite to spend the amount of money required to register and monitor millions of felons on a nationwide scale. What people have convinced themselves of is that sex offenders are the worst of society, worse than murderers, arsonists, drug dealers, and other violent offenders, so therefore that population requires more monitoring than others. In others' words, we're prepared to accept the other folks back into our society without further protection. But not sex offenders. This is hogwash. Registries do not reduce reoffense, but they provide communities a false sense of security. What has been proven to reduce recidivism, even among sex offenders, is treatment. Like the treatment drug offenders receive. How often we have heard stories about the former drug addict that completed treatment either in or out of prison as has re-entered society and found success. This happens also with sex offenders. In fact, recidivism is lower in most instances of sex offenders than other felonies. To some, we don't want safe neighborhoods. We want to lock away the sex offenders we fear out of ignorance. And we want to pretend the other felons don't exist. It is a sad demonstration of justice. But then, that is what the American justice system has become. Sad. Absolutely do not agree. Do you know how many Bull's Peep cases for domestic violence there has been? There are Bull's Peep cases for sex offenders too. Not just in false accusations, but cases where it doesn't make sense. Pretty sure I saw a story of a drunk guy who pissed publicly and a kid saw and he got put on the list. I'll have to look for it so I can cite it correctly. Preteens can also get put on the sex offender list for doing weird speep that kids do. It is not only for rapists, pedos, and molesters. It doesn't even have to include a sex act. It can just be a kid seeing your dick in public. Regardless of the context. There's a lot of gray areas. And a lot of cases where you think WTF. That's not sex offending. And the damage that can do to people is incredibly unfair. And stays with them forever. Undefined. Arrested or convicted? Convicted, yes. Arrested, too open to manipulation. So no. So permanently stigmatized because of a complex issue that our legal system waters down to the point of absurdity. Look at what happened to Johnny Depp. He was beaten by his ex-wife. But he was the one that got the punishment for it. First, make domestic violence gender neutral. Also make some form of evidence mandatory as the law should be, so that there is no misuse of said laws. Then talk about adding a registry. The two are not equivalent. Also, I imagine there's a lot to DV cases. For example, husband swings on wife to get her to stop hitting him with an object that's actually hurting him. Both have to register for the dispute then? I just don't see that working out. I'm in favor of executing the vast majority domestic abusers. Same with people convicted of rape and sexual abuse. I don't believe everyone is entitled to a second chance. Beep no. Domestic violence is top crime where men get convicted too easily and women get too much slack. This rule would just be war on men. They don't? Arrested, no. Convicted, sure. That would be quite the battle axe to wield for women. Arrested for? No. Because that's a slippery slope of crazy X911 abuse. Convicted of in court? I think I'm here for that. I'd also be open to it being a judge-ordered punishment if they feel it rose to a certain level.
Hey guys, if you like this video then smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more contents like this. And don't forget to press that bell icon to get notified for future videos. Thanks for watching. Click here to see more videos.